Guten Morgen, Guten Abend und willkommen in World of Warships. My name is Robin and today we are going to sail in the Tier 10 German heavy cruiser Hindenburg. But first of all, thank you very much for tuning in the video. I really appreciate it and I hope you will enjoy your time here. I am due a commented episode for a while now. I have put a lot of non-edited content recently, but I know you guys always enjoy a full episode, so let's review the details of the ship we're about to sail in. Hindenburg is, simply put, riddled with armaments. We start by a main battery composed of 12 203mm guns in 4x3 turret configuration. Maximum firing range with my build is 20.7 kilometers with a reload time of 9.8 seconds. Torpedo-wise, 16 tubes in 4 quadruple launchers, 6 kilometers of range at a speed of 64 knots. The entire defense system is rated 84, with a massive collection of barrels ranging from 20 to 105 millimeters. The ship has a healthy 51,900 points of HP and is protected by an armor layout ranging from 13 to 150 millimeters with a 13% torpedo damage reduction, all the while being able to reach a top speed of 33.1 knots. Her detection by sea is 12.6 kilometers and 6.9 kilometers by air with a 10.2 kilometer smoke firing penalty. For the upgrades I've installed, we have main armament modification 1, hydroacoustic surge modification 1, aiming system modification 1, steering gears modification 1, concealment system modification 1 and gunfire control system modification 2. For my commander, priority target, preventive maintenance, AR, BOS, superintendent, demolition experts and concealment expert. The Hindenburg is one of the most imposing and heavily armed standard cruiser in the game, able to dish out serious firepower at great ranges, all the while armored enough to stay in the fight. She is a big ship though, with a massive superstructure, making her quite vulnerable to HE and most AP if not correctly angled, but the upper belt and deck are 30mm thick, allowing you to bounce most battleship AP calibers at medium ranges. But that's enough of these descriptions. We have a full game ahead of us to review, so let's take the Hindenburg to battle. And here we are, on the map Warrior's Path Domination Mode. We got ourselves a southwest spawn, in reach of objective B and A. But granted, there are no Tier 10 ships that spawned on the western flank. I decided to head towards the latter. I forgot to show the matchmaker here, but we have a collection of Tier 8, 9 and 10, of course. Escorting me will be a Kurfürst, a Montana, while we join forces with a friendly Mogami, Edinburgh and Tirpitz. Only one destroyer per team, and they are both Tier 8. Our Kagero is on the other side of the map, so where we are going, spotting may be delicate. But while we are heading towards combat, let's talk a bit more about the old Hindenburg. She is a semi-agile harasser that needs to stay at range most of the time, but is also an excellent brawler when she needs to be thanks to her strong armor suit, numerous torpedoes and high penetrating HE coupled with devastating AP. Having played over 1400 games in Des Moines, it's very refreshing for me to play a cruiser that can fight in open waters and hit enemies at great ranges quite consistently as long as your aim is correct. You of course have the famous 1/4 pen on the HE shells, rendering you a massive thorn in any enemy battleship's side. While Hindenburg boasts impressive armament, she lacks in maneuverability. You are not a boss, but you're definitely more sluggish than your average heavy cruiser, with a rudder shift that is left to be desired with if you don't help a bit with upgrades. But let's focus back on the battle ahead. With no contesting whatsoever, the enemy Benson is already capturing Bravo, a bold but smart move as I reviewed in previous videos. Capturing B in Warrior's Path is actually quite important, since it is not an easy cap to take back if the enemies are defending it. On the other hand, our Hindenburg is using her concealment to creep up in Alpha and start flipping the cap in our hands. 2 enemy Montanas are detected near A, but more importantly, enemy Siegfried and Vladivostok are making an early push, centrally. I decide to lag around a bit before committing to Alpha, see if I can lob a few long-range salvos on the German cruiser. But B is secured by the enemy now, nothing I can do about it. This area of the map is actually quite comfortable for a cruiser to progress through. Lots of islands laying around, blocking line of sights and so on, and all my salvos were currently sent unspotted. Getting an angle on the Montanas is tempting, but in the back of my head, I kinda want to set up a crossfire on Bravo, see if I can harass the enemies for pushing middle that early. Doing so would put myself in a crossfire as well though, but I am counting on our allies to keep the Montana busy. Edinburgh is going to capture A uncontested, so I gamble on the fact that I don't need to get too involved on this side, considering the amount of allies we have here, and try to look for an option to progress back towards Bravo. In early games like these, I am not a fan of fully committing to a flank before I know where the bulk of the enemy team is, so I try to keep myself centered so I can assist where needed, all the while maximizing my chances of having at least one target to shoot at. Speaking of which, enemy Puerto Rico had the exact same idea. Delicate situation here. I am fully broadsided by both enemy Montanas, but I cannot turn away as well without exposing myself to Puerto Rico either. So I am keeping a close eye on my priority target skill, and so far I am not getting too much attention. Somehow the US large cruiser does not engage me, so I can make that risky turn and take some cover. Having a quick glance at the eastern flank while we are setting up in a kiting position, C has already pretty much folded to the enemy, and we lost our only destroyer as well as a cruiser 5 minutes in the game. Not a good start, if you ask, but that leaves me with a couple of options. Here, I know that most of the enemy team is at Charlie, though I am hoping the remnants of our team there can hold them for a few moments. I have decent angles on the pass in between B and C, and I could set up right here to harass and suppress any ships, forcing them to eventually sail in the open for our team to engage. Though this would also put me at the center of the attention, but before we get to the bottom of it, we get interrupted by Puerto Rico again. Puerto Rico salvo lands completely off, that's good. The improved AP angle on these 305mm guns are no joke. And while I can bounce them on my belt and stern, they will definitely hurt my superstructure. While kiting away like this, my advice is to not go full speed. First of all, this may throw off the enemy's aim, and second of all, you are keeping yourself in range longer, all the while not sailing away too far from the action whenever you need to turn back. In that case, I'm actually going to hit stop and reverse, and surprisingly, so does Puerto Rico. It's funny to see similar reaction in the enemy player's behavior, and in that case, Puerto Rico is playing it right, outside of the fact that you do not really want to remain under sustained fire from a Hindenburg. I have a permanent fire on him, though he will return the favor twofold. I've already chewed through a decent chunk out of the Puerto Rico's HP pool, so even if I know that I may take some damage in return, I am happily maintaining the engagement for as long as possible since I currently have the advantage. PR knows that and hits the throttle forward again to try and take some cover. During the initial engagement, I have sacrificed a bit of my firepower to turn my bow back towards A bit. The enemies have now pushed through Charlie, and even though they may not pay attention to me at all, I am trying to minimize the risks of being blapped by that Vladivostok, for example. I also want to put myself in a position where I can help against the Montanas. While they are outnumbered, the faster we deal with them, the faster we can turn our attention back to the other flank that is now in critical state. I leave a few fires raging on Puerto Rico before he gets out of sight and head to support A. Looking back, trying to help Charlie flank would maybe have been the better choice, but I believed it was more important to completely clear a flank first, as stated previously. 1 out of 2 Montanas go down, leaving his friend the only one remaining, though he is quite healthy and will take some time to deal with. Once again, I try not to sail too far away from Bravo by reducing my speed a bit. My plan is to stay in that very area, engage Montana, then head back towards the northwestern part of B with the cover of islands. I am still healthy, even though I have not dealt lots of damage, I haven't received lots either, so I know I can still contribute to the fight as now the last tier 10 cruiser alive, at least on our team. I'm also keeping an eye on Bravo for any signs of Puerto Rico. He could very well push back and catch me off guard while I angle towards Montana, which doesn't fail to happen, though Pierre's salvo lands short and Montana's one just bounces off our deck. Our team's point differences, even though we never had cap advantage, isn't extremely gapped because we managed to equalize the kill counter so far. But our team has been on the back foot at Charlie since the very beginning and will shortly be completely dealt with. On the bright side, enemy Montana went down faster than I expected, and while we do secure the kill with minimum damage dealt, at least this side is now completely clear. Time to finally head back for Bravo, hopefully this time with minimum obstacles. Though I may first be overestimating how fast I and our allies at A can sail back to Bravo, and second, underestimating how quick the enemies will be there to contest us. I do know for a fact that Puerto Rico is definitely still there, lurking around and ready for us. The most important remaining target, in my eyes, is the enemy Kremlin, which apparently is still quite healthy. Out of all other threats, he is definitely the biggest one. As expected, Puerto Rico has already taken defensive positions at Bravo, and though we are able to take a few pot shots at it, he quickly reverses back into cover. I will leave it to friendly Montana, Kerfust and Edinburgh, while I will this time try to get involved in the last pocket of fight at Charlie. No more than 200 points of difference. This is still manageable, considering we are only halfway through the timer. My initial plan was to keep on sailing to the left of the island and take some cover there, but my teammates are already doing that, so I try to get myself in range of Kremlin first, the latter who just devastated our friendly Brindisi. As I said, most important target for sure. My HE shells can effectively penetrate most of the plating on the Russian battleship, so I believe myself to be the most effective ship to deal with them as of right now. Most importantly, we're gonna get good intel on the Benson's whereabouts. What worries me though is that our CV, the Shokaku, did not anticipate the push and is left in range and, inevitably, under fire of the enemy. And with that said, both him and friendly Frederick are going to get destroyed simultaneously, effectively clearing C of any allied presence. As soon as this happens, I am immediately targeted and I also immediately hold my fire to reconceal. I am left broadsided to Kremlin with no ability to turn away because of the island to my left. Positioning mistake on my part, but the timing was also off. Tracking the guns on the Kremlin, I cut the engine as soon as he fires, and this luckily saves me from what looked like a perfectly placed salvo. Time to haul ass though, as either Benson could surface spot me or Puerto Rico could radar me. Another factor that will add up to this is that we will now have the undivided attention of the enemy CV, on top of this battle now being a 4 versus 7 with a concerning point difference. As soon as I am in a good kiting position again, I reopen fire on Kremlin with intent on circling back around the island to take cover again. Pushing into Bravo right now, for me at least, would be suicidal, so we have to get defensive and let the enemy push into us instead. I am attracting most of the enemy fire right now, though our Edinburgh has heroically entered Bravo and is facing off Puerto Rico, all the while crucially contesting the point for us and delaying the enemy points progression. Enemy Smolensk, full HP, is entering the area, another threat to consider since he can easily lob his shells over my cover. Though, in an attempt to get an angle on the Edinburgh, enemy Puerto Rico is going to show his bow again, and for the first time in the fight, even though a viable occasion never occurred previously, I have AP loaded. We need to try our best to protect Edinburgh. PR is possibly proxy spotting her, and even if she'd smoke, she would still be visible. We land decent hits on the US cruiser, downing him to almost no HP, though Montana's secondaries easily takes him down, relieving a bit of pressure and buying us a bit of time. And Smolensk is not aware. The position I'm in currently allows me to stay concealed as long as there is no planes in the area, and I can now laser the Russian cruiser. First salvo lands for 14,000 damage to Citadel with a quick follow-up, just enough to secure the kill, and a rather important one. Our Edinburgh is still hanging in there, but I'm not sure for how long. She is currently flipping the cap, but I doubt she will be able to do it in time. I am trying to get visuals on target, all the while reversing to get myself angled enough. And just like clockwork, enemy Bagration is going to follow his brethren path, unawarely showing his broadside to my dozen of guns. We land a disappointing hit, but earn Confederate achievement in the process, right as our Edinburgh regrettably goes down. Second salvo is much more fruitful, steering the Russian cruiser towards a rather certain fate. But we are not lucky enough to secure the kill on our third salvo, neither are we going to be able to do on our fourth. Bagration beaches himself on the rock, throwing both my and the Montana salvo. But as I keep an eye on a possible Kremlin rush, we do get the kill and actually manage to turn the fight in a 3 versus 4. I'm not sure of the Benson's location, but I activate my hydroacoustic to be sure there are no torpedoes coming through the gap. If the Kremlin decides to push, I will definitely be ready for him, but I need to get ready for my own push. While this standoff is slowly depleting the Kremlin's HP, our own Kurfürst is blatantly showing broadside to it. And while I'm not really checking on their health situation, I am pretty sure our German BB isn't doing too good in that spot. We do briefly get eyes on the destroyer, though he has deployed a smokescreen both concealing himself and, intermittently, the Friedrich as well. Benson expended both of his torpedo set. My hydro is active for another 2 minutes. If there's a time to take action, it's now. Unfortunately for me, well, Hindenburg isn't really nimble nor has a lot of acceleration, so I am struggling to both set myself up in the right direction, all the while staying in cover against the now pushing Friedrich. Enemy Benson, out of other options, is going to open fire, allowing me to guess his location and eventually landing some hits. As expected, our Kurfürst goes down and the enemy team is now at an extremely dangerous 950 points. Another few seconds like this and the game will be over. All the while successfully tracking Benson in his smoke, I send torpedoes towards the Friedrich and initiate my own rush. I should be able to make that turn and have my starboard torpedo set ready. Our Montana is still tanking while also having another 40k HP to spare, but I need to get some pressure off of him. We do land a torpedo on the Friedrich with unfortunately no floods, and with impeccable timing, I have to say, our Montana is able to overcome the Kremlin and secure the kill, clearing the way for me in the process. Benson is revealed. Our long-range hydroacoustic is now able to chase him out of his smoke, and we need to finish him off as fast as possible. The Damocles sword of the enemy point is still upon us, and we can see a sliver of hope as the enemy ranks starts to crack up. Successful shots on the fleeing Benson takes him out of the fight, and we turn hard against Friedrich while our torpedoes score 2 more hits. This time with floods and fire, Friedrich won't be lasting long. Though our Montana, blinded by some kind of greed, is going to hit us for 7k HP, incapacitate our turret and turn spink, all for one single passing shell to deny our Kraken and potential double strike. Okay, I'm not one for being pissed at denied Krakens, but that one was particularly dumb, especially since I really could have used the extra HP. Though, miraculously, things somehow turned in our favor. All enemy ships but the enemy CV are out of the fight, and considering the rate at which the planes are coming, the Implacable is very, very close to us. We still need to contest points, and I'm also quite concerned since I am left with a mere 15k HP with all cooldowns, facing torpedo bombers and other attack aircrafts. A bit of shaking frustration here as I realize I will eat a torpedo, putting me back to 10k HP, but at least the torpedo did not cause any floods. Our combined anti-air should be able to heavily limit the attack potential of Implacable while we try and close the distance. At this point, I am fairly certain we need to go for the kill, and I don't think I can waste neither the time or exposure to help secure the zone. We try our best to evade incoming attacks and retain as much HP as possible, though the speed bled during these maneuvers isn't getting us any closer, any faster. I hence leave the cap, asking Montana to keep contesting and potentially covering the other side of the island if Implacable is sneaky enough to pull off that maneuver. Incoming rockets are not punchy enough to penetrate our deck, our next heal is in a few seconds, Montana is proceeding as planned, we can do this. Now, you know me and my greed. I of course politely asked the Montana to leave the CV to me so I can get my greedy Kraken, but looking back at it, it is uncertain if I would have been able to deal with the CV in time, as the points were still dangerously close. We do get a few good hits in, and send torpedoes, though Montana, coming from the side, obliterates the British CV and makes sure that this game turns into a victory. Over 300,000 points of damage dealt, out of 318 main battery hits, 7 citadels, 3 torpedoes, 15 fires and 1 flood. 773,000 credits gained and 13,000 XP earned. We achieved an understandable Confederate, a rather expected dreadnought, a surprising Witherer and a deserved high caliber, while sinking 4.9 enemy ships. Top of the score, with over 3,000 base XP, we were followed by our Edinburgh and our now pink Montana, which both heavily contributed to the fight in their own way. We tried our best to dish out as many punches while avoiding most, made use of map awareness and opportunistic positioning in order to prevail, benefited from an unusual amount of luck, and hopefully showcased a good example of how Hindenburg can be commanded. Well people, this episode is coming to an end. Thank you very much for sticking all the way through. If you have enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, well, thumbs down. But stay tuned anyway. I have managed to get myself both time and inspiration to edit standard episodes again, and I plan on trying to finish some old projects like the Nostalgia's Grind, for example. So, as usual, there will be more content to come about World of Warships. Until then, you have a good one, and you take it easy. Migración.